A child's blanket, soaked, torn, found tangled in the brush near a lake in Nova Scotia. 70 days after 6-year-old Lilly and 4-year-old Jack Sullivan vanished from their home, this was the first physical evidence RCMP had touched. And suddenly, the tone of the investigation shifted. This wasn't a false alarm. This wasn't a rumor. This was real. Something was found. It matched what the children were last seen wearing. And this blanket? According to the children's mother, it was Lily's. For the first time in over 2 months, investigators weren't just looking into thin air. They had something. Something they could touch. Something they could test. And something that may have been moved. Because the real question isn't just what was found, but when. And why now? Had it been there all along? Did someone return to the scene? Or was it placed there to distract? To mislead? To end the search? A clue this late in a missing child case. That's not just rare. It's a message. From whom, we still don't know. But one thing became instantly clear: RCMP were no longer searching with flashlights and posters. They brought in boats, dive teams, drones, aerial surveillance. Because if this lead was genuine, then the water might not just be holding a clue, it might be hiding the truth. And if it wasn't, then someone out there is playing a game with the police, with the public, and with 2 missing children's lives hanging in the balance. This is the story of the blanket that changed everything. And what it might finally reveal about what really happened to Lilly and Jack Sullivan. But here's the question: does this discovery crack the case, or make it even more disturbing? Nearly 70 days after Lilly and Jack Sullivan were last seen alive. And for weeks, nothing. No confirmed sightings. No physical evidence. No trace of the children. Not a single verified clue. But then, today, there's a shocking twist. Do you believe Lilly and Jack are alive? Or gone too soon? Comment below with your city. Share your thoughts with the thousands of people who care about Lilly and Jack's whereabouts, and kindly subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that already, to stay updated with this case, as we strive even harder to get answers in the Lilly and Jack disappearance mystery. Thank you. Near a quiet bend on 17 Millbrook Road in rural Nova Scotia, not far from a remote, murky lake surrounded by thick underbrush, search teams discovered something. A child's blanket. Torn. Damp. Weathered. It had been partially buried under sticks and leaves, as if tossed, or maybe, hidden. Beside it, tiny pieces of clothing. Pink and white fabric. Small enough to belong to a 6-year-old. Investigators were cautious. They didn't want to raise hopes prematurely. But then came the confirmation. The children's mother, Lilly Sullivan, took one look at the items, and immediately said that was Lily's blanket. She was sure. She remembered the print. She remembered the threads. The wear and tear. It was her daughter's. And for the first time since April 16th, when Lilly and Jack were reported missing, the RCMP had something they could actually work with. Boats were deployed into the lake. Underwater recovery teams scanned the depths. Drones and aerial equipment circled overhead. The energy on the ground shifted. You could feel it. Investigators had moved from hopeful to focused. Because this wasn't just a random discarded item. It was exactly what Lilly was said to be wearing the night she disappeared. The public didn't hear about it right away. The RCMP held back the discovery for several hours. Some say they didn't want the media to swarm. Others believe they needed time to verify. But by the time the news broke, the reaction was immediate. Locals gathered. Volunteers reappeared. Journalists returned. And yet, the question loomed: why now? Why, after more than 2 months of total silence, would the blanket appear? Was it missed during earlier searches? Did water from the lake carry it out? Or had someone deliberately placed it there, days or hours before? Because if the latter is true, then whoever did this may still be watching, still manipulating the case. RCMP investigators never ruled out the possibility of planted evidence. They haven't confirmed it either. But one officer close to the scene reportedly told a journalist off record, "It doesn't make sense how it ended up there. That area was already checked." And just like that, the entire investigation took a darker turn. Because if someone was trying to throw investigators off the trail, then this wasn't just a search for missing kids anymore. It was a chase. One with shifting clues and a ticking clock. What's worse? The clothing wasn't the only disturbing part. The position of the blanket suggested it had been handled recently. Not weathered or rotted like something left outside for months. Which means this clue may not be a clue at all. It might be a breadcrumb, left on purpose. And that leads to the next burning question: was someone trying to restart the investigation? Or shut it down completely? The RCMP's silence on the condition of the items has only raised more eyebrows. Why hold back details? Why no photos? No public evidence records? No statement clarifying what DNA, if any, was recovered? For grieving communities, the silence has been deafening. And for Malihia, the mother, every day that passes without a new update feels like another step away from her children. But there's something else that came out that same week. Something that didn't make headlines, but it should have. Just 48 hours after the blanket was found, police vehicles were seen outside a nearby home, one that had already been looked into early in the investigation. Was it connected to the discovery? Was it unrelated? RCMP won't say. Not yet. But if this clue was meant to help, it's only made the case more confusing. So here's the question: did someone finally slip up? Or are we all just playing into the hands of whoever took Lilly and Jack Sullivan? Because if this blanket was planted, then that means one horrifying thing. The person who placed it knows exactly what happened to the children. The lake sits just beyond the tree line, silent, still, and cold. A mile from 17 Millbrook Road. Far enough that initial searches bypassed it, but close enough to be whispered about. When the blanket surfaced nearby, RCMP had no choice. They deployed dive teams. Sonar circles traced every ripple underwater. Drones with thermal sensors scanned the surface at dusk. Boats combed the shoreline. This wasn't standard procedure. Not for a missing person case without signs of drowning. But these were not regular circumstances. Heat-sensing drones swept over the lake at night, looking for anything that could hint at what was below. Divers checked the depths. Again and again. Several times over 4 days. And yet, still nothing. One dive team leader, speaking off the record, said, "If she, Lily, or Jack were in that lake, we'd see something by now." Which leaves a chilling question: if they weren't in the lake, what was the purpose of placing the blanket there? To draw attention to a drowning accident? Was it a hint? Or a red herring? Why'd they choose a lake? It's not just about geography, it's about perception. Water gives pause. It buys time. It creates uncertainty. Then there's another detail, tense and very recent. RCMP discovered 2 heat signatures in the water, not human. Metallic. Possibly equipment left behind by someone. Or placed there intentionally. Could that equipment have been used to stage a disappearance? And yet, nothing. No body. No DNA. No trace. So investigators are standing at the edge of the water, wrestling with this decision. Do they accept the lake is a fiction, a diversion by someone who wants us to look there? Or do they believe there's still something hidden beneath the surface? Because what comes next, they're taking another dive. And this time, it won't just be about sonar. It'll be about excavation, sampling, and forensic soil analysis. But if they still find nothing, the case moves up the slope, away from the lake. Toward one chilling possibility. That someone planted evidence to steer investigators. After the lake search, one question hung heavy: is this real or staged? RCMP confirmed they have not publicly matched DNA from the blanket or clothing to Lilly. Tests are ongoing. This is no small detail. DNA confirmation would anchor everything. Without it, this piece of clothing hangs like a ghost in the room. But here's where it gets even more complicated. Search and rescue sent dogs, deployed soon after the discovery, gave mixed alerts. According to one handler, they showed excitement near the blanket, but then lost interest downstream. Was it a sign of dilution, or a sign someone brought it there? Online sleuths began dissecting photos of the blanket. Some noticed it looked unusually crisp. Not tattered. Not weather-worn. Could this have been planted days, or even hours, before RCMP arrived? RCMP spokesperson stated there's currently no confirmed timeline for DNA results, but noted forensic analysts are examining fiber integrity and water exposure. A forensic analyst off-record shared, "We can tell if a blanket sat submerged for 60 days, or if it only touched water 6 hours ago. That's why lab results matter, and why they matter now. Because if it turns out this cloth was fresh, the whole case pivots." The theory shifts from "we found them" to "we were manipulated." Then came another question from the public: where did this blanket come from? The family had said it didn't match Jack's blanket, and only belonged to Lilly. So whose hand left it by the lake? Something else emerged. RCMP had a second unidentified cloth sample from earlier in the search, a scrap found near the sliding door inside the home. But they've refused to say whether it matches this lake cloth. Without that link, this remains a loose end. A puzzle missing at least 2 corners. So we circle back to the question that won't go away. If Lilly didn't drop that blanket, who did? And what does that tell us about the identity of the person behind it? Because at its core, this could be the first real clue, or the first real distraction. In the digital age, the smallest clue can topple a timeline. Now, the RCMP have zeroed in on 2 wiped devices. One belonging to the mother, the other a laptop used by the stepfather. Officially, no one has confirmed what was lost, but insiders say the wipe happened days before the lake blanket surfaced. Factory resets erase history. Every call log. Every message. Every digital footprint. Forensic teams are using specialized tools to recover what they can, retracing deleted messages and cloud remnants. Because those timelines, digital and physical, don't match. RCMP is now cross-referencing cell tower pings around 17, Millbrook Road and the lake area. Timeline mismatch. May 1st evening, pings show a device near the lake. May 2nd morning, same device shifts back to the house. But, 2 hours earlier, the wiping occurred, inside the same network. Was someone at that lake, before the blanket appeared? Then there's deleted text thread reports. Sources tell us one device had messages exchanged, just before disappearance, that were erased overnight. RCMP has not issued a timeline of deletions, but forensic units estimate key windows. Between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. on May 2nd. Imagine, a conversation. Time-stamped just early enough to matter, but lost before investigators arrived. What was erased? A warning? A plan? Or an alibi? Investigators are now layering that data over physical evidence. They're aligning movement patterns with boot prints, scent dog anomalies, and the lake discovery. But here's the twist. Cell tower pings also recorded an unidentified device lingering near the pipeline trail, where the boot prints were found, after the deletion occurred. So now there are 3 locations of interest: the home, the pipeline, the lake, and digital ghosts linking all 3. RCMP admit they are processing this information, but it's not public yet. The big question looms: has someone actively manipulated timelines to mislead investigators? If messages were deleted after the lake clue surfaced, what were they trying to hide? With the lake evidence emerging, the RCMP launched a second round of interviews, this time with everyone closest to Lilly and Jack. Body language specialists, reviewing footage from earlier media interviews, noted moments of hesitation, micro-expressions of tension, signs of someone under intense pressure. What were they trying to hide, or protect? Inside sources say the stepfather, Daniel Martel, was particularly questioned on the lake clue. Curiously, his answers shifted when confronted with digital anomalies from the devices. Who breaks first when clues collide? Public skepticism exploded online. Comments asked, if the blanket was real, why no lead? If it's fake, who planted it? At the same moment the blanket surfaced, the RCMP re-announced the $150,000 reward. Was this timing strategic, or frantic? Investigation experts suggest re-interviews and reward renewal could be a tactical move, or a sign pressure was mounting internally. What's clear, no charges have been filed yet. But tensions within the household are reportedly fracturing. If the lake clue doesn't pan out, the case could collapse under its own weight. So who stands to gain, or lose, if this piece of evidence proves real? Is it the RCMP, desperate for a break? The family, needing answers? Or someone trying to steer suspicion? This section isn't about guilt, it's about pressure. And when pressure builds, cracks appear. We thought the lake clue was just another search lead, but then everything changed. After the blanket appeared near 17 Millbrook Road, RCMP pulled back from public volunteer outreach. No more mass alerts. The language shifted. Suddenly, the investigation wasn't broad, it was targeted. But what does it mean when authorities go quiet? Inside sources reveal private search warrants were executed, unannounced. Aerial thermal drone patterns from day 2 raised red flags. While volunteers combed the woods, RCMP analysts were mapping heat signatures and finding inconsistencies. Did someone lure searchers away, while drone eyes hovered overhead? And then the commanding officer spoke publicly. We're treating this find very seriously. All resources are on the table. This wasn't a photo op. That line meant scales were tipping. But why the sudden shift, if this blanket was just a wild goose chase? Thermal imagery from drones, leaked by investigative tech staff, shows irregular patterns on day 2, around predefined zones. If true, RCMP may have had agenda-driven targets all along. Sometimes, the most revealing clues are hidden in what's not spoken. Search skirmishes intensified. Teams were seen in restricted zones. Cameras rolling, evidence bags in hand. A new energy gripped the base, urgency, backed by authority. But what was moved, before teams even arrived? Some insiders believe objects may have been shifted, before RCMP stepped in. Either to protect them, or hide them. And as resources grew, thermal drones, infrared gear, cell tower triangulation around the lake, it became clear, the scope had evolved from finding children, to uncovering truth. In the days following, warrant logs confirmed seizures, phones, laptops, digital storage, in possession of key individuals. What were they hoping to uncover, or conceal? The tone from RCMP shifted again, from "no evidence of abduction" to "all avenues remain open," repeated thrice in official statements. Was the investigation expanding, or narrowing focus on a suspect? Detectives are now analyzing cellular pings near the lake on May 2nd. If a device lingered there, it rewrites the timeline. And if someone was at that lake after the kids disappeared, what were they doing? This is the moment the case stopped being about lost children, and became about controlled narratives. About who decides which story is true, and which one gets buried. We're standing at the edge of a crossroads. 3 paths lie before us, each one darker than the last. Theory A, the clothing is genuine, a tragic accident. Maybe Lilly and Jack wandered, fell into the lake. Pieces of clothing and that blanket drifted ashore. Blood-chilling, but accidental. Yet, RCMP's underwater team searched for 2 days and uncovered nothing. No bodies. No signs. Was the lake searched too late? Or, not at all? But what if the lake was never their grave, but a stage? Theory B, the scene is staged, a misleading trail. Online investigators pointed out something unusual. The blanket looked too clean to have floated for weeks. No fish stench. No algae. Suggests someone placed it there deliberately. RCMP sent dogs were confused near the lake. Did traces vanish? Were trackers misled? If someone staged the scene, they knew search patterns and how to exploit them. If this was cleanup, who had access? And why leave a clue, blatant enough to attract attention, yet labeled accidental? Theory C, the disposal theory, a cover-up in motion. Perhaps worse, children died, or were killed, and someone dumped their clothes in the lake, then moved a body elsewhere. RCMP found boot prints near a pipeline trail not far from Gairloch Road. Could the blanket be a diversion, bait to lure search towards one area, away from the real crime scene? And note how soon the $150,000 reward was re-announced, the same day this evidence emerged. Calculated or coincidental? We've re-interviewed the parents, tracked deleted messages, forensically examined every fiber. But the deeper we dig, the more fractured the truth becomes. Which of these theories fits the timeline? Who stands to benefit if the clothing was planted? And what does that say about the final hours of Lilly and Jack? We're hours away from a breakthrough, one fiber test backlogged, awaiting results. Hold on to that thought. We still don't have a body. We don't know precisely where, and when, their lives ended. But we have traces, digital smoke, physical fragments, haunting possibilities. If you have information, contact the RCMP now. Was it a tragic accident, a clever setup, or a cover-up born of fear? What do you believe really happened on May 2nd? Behind that blanket lies a question no one answered yet, and until we do, this story remains unfinished. News of the lake finding sent shockwaves across Nova Scotia. Local residents gathered for an impromptu vigil by the water's edge, near the very spot where Lily's blanket washed ashore. But just as candlelight filled the night, voices online crackled in tension. Hope clashed with horror. This blanket could be a breakthrough, or the deadliest kind of red herring. On Facebook pages and TikTok threads, speculation ran wild. Was the police following the right threads? Or chasing someone's planted lie? Anonymity on forums brought brutal honesty. Some users wrote, "This gives me chills," could be the end. Or the beginning of more confusion. Some trusted it as proof children were near water. Others smelled deception. A criminal psychologist stepped in, noting, in these cases, the truth doesn't always come fast. But it leaves a trail. That trail often shows in conflicting stories, half-truths, and social media sleuths. And here's what hit hardest: this digital whirlwind could alter RCMP's strategy, if they're listening. Locals near Lansdowne Station speak of renewed anxiety. Parents keep watch longer. Every toy left by the roadside now draws a second look. Meanwhile, a retired detective commented on national radio, saying the blanket find represented a double-edged sword. It piqued public attention, but could also mislead investigators. This case has drawn an entire province into debate, but has it drawn them closer to answers? The RCMP now faces pressure, from inside and out. They've promised updates once forensic results return. But until then, every question, every theory, hangs in the balance. To this day, the story behind that blanket, its origin, its purpose, its meaning, remains unsolved. The lake changed everything. A torn blanket. Pieces of clothing. The kind a 6-year-old might wear. 70 days of silence, broken by fabric found tangled in the reeds. But was it a real breakthrough, or just another diversion in a case already saturated with confusion? The RCMP responded within hours, boats in the water, drones in the air, and the public, on edge. We walk back through the layers. The secluded location. The sudden shift in tone from law enforcement. Cell tower pings that raised new suspicions. The factory resets. The re-interviews. And finally, the $150,000 reward announced at a crucial moment. And still, no confirmed DNA. No bodies. No arrests. Just one haunting question: where are Lilly and Jack? Are they still alive? Or were we looking in the wrong place all along? In every missing child case, there comes a moment. A shift. When the search becomes something else, more desperate, more calculated, more painful. For Nova Scotia, that moment might have started the day the lake whispered something back. One clue. That's all it takes. One piece of fabric could close this case. Or send it spiraling deeper into darkness. What do you believe? Was this a genuine clue, dropped by two lost children, or a trap laid to mislead? Because this case isn't closed. And the next clue could be the one that cracks it wide open.